What do people need to know or understand about energy security?
Well, I think energy security really came to the forefront when Russia illegally invaded the Ukraine. And all of a sudden, a single source of supply for natural gas was at risk. And there had been a tremendous component and build in Europe towards renewables, which are intermittent by nature. The sun doesn't always shine and the wind doesn't always blow.
How should we be thinking about this going forward so that we have a more secure future?
The most economic and reliable way to relieve the unsure nature of wind blowing or the sun shining is through natural gas-fired generation.
Can you talk about what it would mean, like these different technologies, changing technologies, and how that, translates down to the ratepayer? How fast can we move on these things? Why aren't companies moving fast? Is there something blocking something?
The price of electricity itself is over 200% higher today than it was 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah. And Alberta had one of the lowest cost electricity pool price for electricity in all of Canada. In fact, pretty much all of North America. And why was that? We had market mechanisms that helped encourage natural gas supply for power generation. 7 years earlier than the regulations required us to, we changed out in Alberta all of our coal plants to natural gas. We have commissioned more renewable power plants, wind and solar, in Alberta than anywhere else in Canada. 77% of the 1.8 gigawatts that have been delivered in Canada. That solar and that wind, as we talked about, is not always 100% reliable. The natural gas combustion plants are always reliable, but they won't operate when there's an abundance of solar and wind. So when there isn't, the generators using natural gas are charging more because it's scarce.
What are the myths or statements that you hear in media about how easy it is to change our energy systems that you think people need to think, maybe need to fact check that?
So this is where we start to have a point in time, particularly in Canada, where the practicality and the ideology are not matching.
Right.
My understanding of the model that's being used that says we can have a zero emission grid by 2035 is a 40-year historic model that normalizes weather.
Oh.
But what happens when we have 3 weeks of 40 degrees? And what happens when we have 3 weeks of minus 30 or 40 degrees in the winter? What do we do then? And this clean electricity regulation doesn't take into account those weather events. That's problematic, and that's regional. We don't even need to talk about reliability or resilience or affordability. The fact of the matter is people will die if they don't have heating in their homes when it's minus 30 for more than a week of the year, like it was last December, and we would have had to have 3 times the electric system that we have today in order to keep us safe from freezing. Wow. For the average household today, they are experiencing over 200% increase in their cost of energy.
And that's before you try to triple.
That's before we try to get to a net zero grid. It's the power generation right now that's causing the huge spike in electricity costs.
Right.
But then if we do add and have to, in a very short period of time, completely convert the system, it's 3 or 4 times the cost, the increase in cost that we're experiencing today.
Wow. At the end of the day, the house that has to bear all those costs, it just becomes untenable.
What are you prepared to spend on? Do you want affordable food? Affordable housing? and affordable electricity or energy? Which one are you going to choose? Or do you want decarbonization in a net zero world in the next 12 years?
Right.
And if that's your choice, if you want a net zero electricity energy supplier, in 12 years' time, this is what the cost is going to be. The real cost. What is the real cost? Mm-hmm. Nobody has sat down and actually said what the real cost is, because none of us know.
Wow.
None of us know. Not government doesn't know, industry doesn't know. We're putting out rough order of magnitude estimates. But let's sit down and do the real work, and then compare those costs to what it costs to feed your family, to what it costs to keep your industries running and jobs created. And then let's make balanced decisions about what works for our nation.
All right. Thank you very much.